What up, people? Cracked Lemonade here, and today I am playing Def Jam Vendetta for the PlayStation 2. Specifically to talk about nostalgia around this game and the talks of them making another, well, not talks, but like the suggestion that they should make another Def Jam type game. And for the longest time, I've been saying, like, they can't do that, and there are reasons that I think they can't do that. But over time, I realized, like, I'm not a game developer. I'm nobody who can make these decisions and am not anywhere in a room near somebody who can make those decisions. So it's hard for me to say definitively they will never do it. And the worst part about that is, like, they probably won't ever do it. So what I want to talk about is this game and why I think they're not going to do another Def Jam type game. What I think that they would need to do that. And I can also open it up because at the end of the day, I realize I do not know what you might think would be the things that are necessary for them to revive this series. So, starting with Def Jam Vendetta, the current game that I am playing, this one is definitely an Aki Engine game. It mainly the fights take place in wrestling rings. You do mostly wrestling moves, and Def Jam Fights for New York has more of a street fighting style, and it's more underground brawls and inferno matches and train matches and things of that sort. And what I actually really enjoy about both Def Jam Vendetta and Fight for New York is that there is a bit of a difficulty curve where when you pick these games up after a while, especially Def Jam Fight for New York, that game is very fast paced and there are a lot of broken characters, and I would really love to know some of the reasonings behind making certain characters the way they were, specifically Fat Joe and Elephant Man. I would love for somebody to give like a breakdown specifically of why they made Elephant Man so fast. Now, I don't know anything about the artist. I don't know if like he does that for real in real life, but that is something that I was definitely thinking about when playing Def Jam Fight for New York. I have an older video. You should not go watch that. I'll probably make a newer video with thoughts on Def Jam Fight for New York at some time. But unfortunately, like I said, when you don't play certain games for a while, you get trounced. And I got trounced when I decided to pick up Def Jam Vendetta for the first time by a character named Pee-wee, who was quite the opposite of Pee-wee. And when you look at Def Jam Vendetta and you look at Def Jam Fight for New York, and even Def Jam Icon, I think about the time period where those games existed. The musical artists that were really all over the place in terms of mainstream media, the fighting engine that they had, and a good place to listen to music that everyone under the Def Jam label produced. When I think of Def Jam or a Def Jam type game now, one, Def Jam I don't think exists anymore, or exists very differently than it did previously. And for those who don't know exactly what the brand Def Jam did, they didn't just do music. They did like the Def Comedy Jam, where a lot of black comedians got their start and did really great shows. They made really good compilation videos that I recommend you checking out. They did Def Poetry Slam, where they also had a collection of poets and stuff. And they also had Def Jam the Music. So it was a particularly large brand. So during that time period, a partnership with EA to put some of your best artists in a video game where they fight each other is a really good idea. Where I don't see that now is, maybe it's because I don't keep up with like popular music, but I don't know of a distribution company that has the star power to put a roster together to make another Def Jam type game. So that's why I don't see it happening. Not saying that it's possible, I'm just saying that comparatively to the early 2000s, where these games were made, and now where I don't really know who the popular artists are and what would make a good roster for a game of this type, because I'm not familiar with the artists. And for me, and probably a lot of people playing this game or revisiting this game, you would probably want to see a lot of the characters that were in this game previously. And I do not know how difficult of a task it would be assembling this roster again, especially since I'm not sure how many people between the first, second, and even Def Jam Icon are still active musicians who would want to participate in this game. Maybe they would all want to participate in this game, but I genuinely do not know. So ultimately, that's why I don't see it happening. And one thing I do enjoy about Def Jam Vendetta and Def Jam Fight for New York is that they are both uniquely fun. Def Jam Vendetta and Def Jam Fight for New York are kind of different games, where this is more wrestling focused, and I don't know if they carried over the Aki engine into Fight for New York. I really don't know. And this is also when between Def Jam Vendetta and Fight for New York, it transferred from EA Big to EA Games. So probably would have to look into more of the development to get an answer to the engines. I may even talk about that when I talk about Def Jam Fight for New York. One thing I will say about Def Jam Icon after playing it for a while is that it should not have been a Def Jam game. I think that the game could have been good if it was a fighting game for DJs, with the way you can affect the background. There's no life meter. I feel like if you replaced the Def Jam artists with DJs and you changed it up a little bit, you would have a completely different game that people would not have complained about. The problem with Def Jam Icon is the fact that it had the Def Jam name and it had the expectations of Def Jam Fight for New York and completely failed to deliver. Now, if they decide to revisit a Def Jam type game, I would really be interested in what game engine they would use. In my opinion, I feel like you would have to have some sort of game that was already developed but had generic characters, and then have the roster of musicians that you would want to make a deal to use their likeness with. And I'm not sure if that is an avenue that any game company would be doing right now. And maybe they shouldn't, but I just don't know. I think that this game and this idea was very unique and very specific to its time. And maybe if they did try to follow up, it would not deliver or be as impactful as this was. Doesn't take away from how good Def Jam Vendetta or how good Def Jam Fight for New York is. Both games are relatively expensive nowadays, and there still is a community of people who play this, and I've seen people play Def Jam Fight for New York competitively, and hats off to y'all. I'm not gonna do that, but there are people who enjoy this game. There are people who still play this game. It is kind of unfortunate that we probably won't see another Def Jam game, but this is where I go back to the beginning of the video and I asked the question of, what do you think would be the elements needed to create another Def Jam game? In my mind, I think it is not an easy thing to ask for or an easy task to accomplish, and especially with the way microtransactions and game costs are getting right now, it might not be good for your pocket. So what would be the best thing? Would it be having all the characters on the disc? Would it be a season pass sort of situation? What kind of engine would work out of the engines that are out there for this to be brought to modern systems? Who would be on here? Because at the end of the day, a lot of the artists who are in this game are a lot older now. This game is, I think, 20 years old at this point. So who is a current musical talent that would be on a type of game like this? And I don't know. There's nothing. There's no reward for good answers. I just think it'd be good interaction. I can't get the game made or anything, but it's something that I was thinking about regarding Def Jam Vendetta and Def Jam Fight for New York, because it is something that comes up when this game is brought up, is that people wanted to come back. And the other thing that I hear people want back is Celebrity Deathmatch. And I will talk about that in a future video because I have some thoughts. I do want to rewatch season 6 of Celebrity Deathmatch, but that is currently on, I think it's still on Paramount, and I'm not doing all that. So if I ever rewatch Celebrity Deathmatch, I will have different thoughts, but I do have some thoughts on Celebrity Deathmatch, which we will talk about at a later time. Def Jam Vendetta, great game. I don't have any bad things to say about it. It kind of goes to the things I talk about in the wrestling games, where there are certain engines that make certain games. And from my experience playing WCW NWO World Tour, playing WWF No Mercy, Aki engine games are good. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Aki makes good wrestling games. There are probably some bad examples out there, but what is there to say about a game that has a good engine, a game that plays relatively well 20 years later with not really preparing, even though I'm getting beat by the CPU a couple times? It's still a good game. It's not frustrating enough to where I want it to stop. It's a good game. That's all I gotta say. This has been Crack Lemonade. This has been Def Jam Vendetta. And I will catch you later. Peace out.